What's going on, guys? Welcome to our series where we're going to be playing, reviewing, and enjoying every game on the N64. Let's press start. Today we're going to be reviewing an RPG on the N64, Aidyn Chronicles, the first Mage. This is the first thing I'm going to say about Aidyn Chronicles, the first Mage. I thought this was going to be a review of me playing the game for 2 hours, coming back in front of the camera and saying, don't buy it, this game stinks, it's not worth it. Luckily though, I got sucked back into it. And so first I'm going to talk a little bit about what kind of turned me off from the game at first, and then what sucked me back in. So one of the main things that really kind of turned me off at first was how the game starts. Really, the story was kind of weak. It's going to eventually become a really big strength and one of the reasons that I love the game. But you start off in a castle and you're seeing a scene with a knight and a cook. And they're talking about a squire. He's missing. He's stolen some weapons, stolen some potions, magic, and he's out looking for a farmer. At first I didn't realize why that was important, how that was going to play into the story. It kind of does eventually, and it's not really a big part, but I guess that's just how they decided to start the game. I thought they could have done a much better job, because it just really wasn't interesting at all, I thought. So once that all happens, then you are finally playing as the squire. You're the character that they're looking for, and you're thrown into a forest, and it's a wide open forest. It's an open world game. It's an RPG, and it's huge. It's enormous. I can see for somebody who maybe wasn't used to playing an RPG like this, maybe you hadn't played on the PlayStation 1 or anything like that, and you're playing this game. It's huge. There is some areas where there's no music. There's long stretches of doing nothing. You're just running. Eventually, if you veer off, and it's a huge map, if you veer off far, you can find some chests and different items that you will eventually use. But the map is really big, and there's really no guidance at all. The battle system is something that takes some getting used to. Especially if you're somebody who's not used to playing RPGs, the battle system kind of stinks at first until you figure it out. At first you're battling rats, bats, and smaller animals. Once you figure it out though, the game gets much better. But at first that was one of the things. Speaking of battling, when you go into the menu to upgrade your strengths, to upgrade your items that you're carrying, your swords that you pick up, or potions and magic, that kind of thing, there is no guidance on that either, and it's a little daunting, I think, because the menu is huge. There's just so much that you can upgrade. You can level your characters up, in true RPG fashion, but there's really no way of knowing what to upgrade first, what your character is going to be really good at. It turns out that your characters can do both. He can be a brute guy and he can do magic or whatever, but then there's other characters that you have to really learn what they're good at and when they can and they can't learn. So those were some of the things that kind of frustrated me at first. And then the music, man, the music gets better in other areas, it really does, but at the beginning it's just it loops over and over and over. When you get to the town where the castle is in, that music is just trumpets and I think like trombones or something just blaring over and over. You get into the castle and the same thing over and over, just kind of loops. It gets a little bit old. It gets better as the game goes, and I'm kind of going to talk about that here in a little bit as to what got me sucked back into the game. After about 3 hours of playing, I finally realized that I think I was rushing through the game a little too much. Now, yes, it was an open world. There was a lot to get done and learn right off from the start without really knowing what I was doing. But once I started speaking with all the characters, learning names, I got into the town with the castle. Then I got into the castle. I started roaming around. Before I had spoken to the king, he had told me what to do, but before that, he told me what to do, but I still didn't really know because I hadn't explored it all. Once I explored, got to know who the characters around me were, then after that it all started making more sense. There's a library in the castle. There's even a library in some of the other areas. In the second the second area, Aramon, there's another library there. You learn a lot. You find neat things just through speaking with characters. Once I did that, I was able to get my team together. I learned from every character. I mean, there's so much dialogue. The storytelling is insane in this game, and I found out who I wanted to take with me by speaking with them. You know, you're able to choose from, I think, 6 or 7 characters, but you're only able to carry 4. Backtracking a little bit, after being in the game 20-25 hours now played in this game, that's one of the things that kind of stinks. You know, you pick your 4 characters, and eventually, if you want to trade, because you meet other characters along the way, if you want to trade one for another, sometimes you have to kill one of the characters off because he just won't leave. He just won't leave the party. And other times, when you want to keep a character, you know, he or she will. That's the end of their story. Once you get to a certain area, that they want to leave, and I mean they'll leave. That's it. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer. But I guess in some games that's just how it works, and unfortunately that's how it worked in this game. So yeah, so once I got that figured out, I got my team together, I kind of started figuring out how to upgrade and which character had which strengths and what I should upgrade whenever they leveled up. The battle system then came into play, and it was a lot easier. So I was just doing it wrong at first. You know, I was putting the weaker character in front while the meat shield was in the back. You know, RPG 101, I guess. I was just doing it wrong at first when I first started playing it. Once I got my team together and I started doing these badass battles, Miko, shh. Once I started doing these bigger battles, it all just started making more sense. I put my meat shields up front, you know, my brutes, and then I had my guys who could use the aerial objects in the back, and it just the battle system became much easier. The only bummer that continues throughout the entire game with the battle system is that the battles take really long. I mean, 20-25 hours in, actually it's 25 hours in. One of the battles lasted like 30 minutes, man, and one of the things, and I thought about recording that, compressing it, and doing like a time lapse throughout this video, but it would have been way too long to show you guys. So the battle is just, the grind is real in this game. So but once I got better at that, the story became way better as well. I figured out how to upgrade my characters and do all that. The game just got way more enjoyable. And now it's time for our 5-punch review. For level design and graphics on Aidyn Chronicles, what can you say? It's an N64 game. You're going to see the same kind of graphical design that you see on almost every other game. Just pointy things all over the place, pointy hands with fingers drawn on them. You know, it's just, that's just the way it worked on the N64. This does profit from having an expansion pack in the system, and you can tell the renderings were a little bit better as far as that went. So that was a plus. The levels, like I said before, while they are really open world, they could have done a little bit of a better job with adding more interactive things throughout the levels while you're running around. The controls for the game, pretty standard for being N64. You know, really, the more N64 games that I'm playing, the more that I'm realizing that all of the people complaining about the N64 controller, I really don't notice it. After playing these games for a while now, I really don't notice it. I kind of actually like the N64 controller. This game, as far as difficulty goes, it's not too hard. I mean, the learning curve at first is pretty hard just because you kind of have to teach yourself everything. You know, there is no guidance as far as that goes. So once you get past that hump, it's actually pretty standard. I would say that just grinding it out, leveling up if you're leveling up your characters the correct way throughout the entire process, then you're going to be okay. It's not going to be too hard for you to continue winning battles and to progress. Now, as in any RPG, finding different items and progressing the actual story will take time, just because it is a wide open world and you do have to speak to a lot of characters and go to different places. Sometimes you got to backtrack a little bit to get it done, but as far as difficulty goes, I think it's pretty standard. I wouldn't say it's difficult at all. The story, like I said, I thought it started out weak, but maybe that was just me. I don't think you know, now being 25 hours in, I don't think the story was weak. I think it's actually a really great story, and that might be one of the things that, you know, even though I haven't finished the game, I would really like to. I'm not sure if I'm going to, just because I have so much to do, but it might be one of those games where I am gonna push through and finish it, just because the story is great. There's good twists and turns, and there's things that I kind of had figured out already, just within the first 4 hours of playing, that yeah, they were confirmed later on. But it was a really good story. I actually, you know, I'm gonna say it right now, I'm gonna recommend this game, and it's mostly on the story, but you do have to tough it out at first. And finally, character development. Character development, if you're doing it right, if you're talking with all the characters, if you're looking at all the history books, and you're just reading through everything and anything that is thrown at you in this game, if you're taking the time to have your character read through books in the libraries, and talk to all the characters and listen to all their history lessons, you know, their stories, if you're doing that, then the character development in this game is up there with any other RPG, where you really think that the story and the character development is driving the game along. It is in true RPG fashion. That's what this game does, and it's pretty darn inclusive of everything, even characters that you're only going to be hearing about and you really never meet. It really gives you a good development of that character. Alright, so Aidyn Chronicles, it's a game that I'm going to recommend. Now, it does start off slow. After playing about 15 hours, I decided to go look at some reviews. I didn't want to look at any reviews at first, just because I didn't want that to be a factor as to whether I continue playing this game or how I was going to do my review. But I saw that a lot of people really enjoyed it. The people who beat it, the people who played more than 10 hours, you know, and the people who just tried it out at first, you know, oh, it was crap, you know, it was poop. We just kind of put it aside, we sold it, we went and traded it in, whatever the case was. And it was just because, you know, they played a few hours or whatever, and yeah, I could understand it 100%. If you only play the first couple of hours in a really enormous game, then like this one, and especially on the N64, you know, I can see why you would be turned off and not want to play it. But after playing 25 hours, and 25 hours plus now, because I just played a little bit a while ago to figure something out for this review, I can say that I would recommend it. And so the black cart for this game is going to cost you anywhere between 10 and 15 bucks, and if you want a complete and box copy like this one, it's only going to run you about $30. There is a gray variant of this game, and that one is a little more pricey. I think the last few sold on eBay were upwards of $50 a piece, which we don't really collect variants like that right now. We have the black cartridge. We're not too fuzzy about that. So if you want to get this game, I would recommend that you get it, and I would recommend that you take your time, go through the entire process of what an RPG beginning is, and just kind of get to know the game. And once you do, I promise that once you get it going, you're gonna have a really good time with this game. So that's my review for Aidyn Chronicles. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm sorry that this one took a little bit longer. The next batch is going to be All-Star Baseball, I think 99, 2000, 2001. We're going to group those together, not just because they're sports games, but you get to a point with those where there's really not much to talk about, and we're just going to go over the differences and the similarities of the games, and which one you should get out of the three. So again, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Press Start, Aidyn Chronicles: The First Mage. Stay tuned for more of our weekly episodes on our N64 reviews.